Tonight, we're going to open your eyes to something that's going on all around us, and yet most of us are unaware. You're about to meet 4 unforgettable kids who say they had no choice but to leave home. But not for any of the reasons you might imagine. They're not bad kids. No one was kicked out for drug abuse. And yet, as you'll see, they are all homeless, part of a huge population of kids that have been cast off. Come and find out why these kids are in a desperate search for what most of us take for granted, a place to call home.
My name is Rebecca.
My name is George.
My name is Dakota.
My name's June.
4 fresh-faced teens just coming into their own.
I'm 18.
I'm 16.
17 years old.
I'm 13.
They should be worried about prom, homework, Friday night football. Instead, they're worrying about whether anyone loves them. They're not even sure where they're going to sleep tonight. Now, this wasn't the way it was supposed to go. They had parents who loved them, rooms of their own, clean pajamas with feet.
I wanted to be a pilot.
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
4 teenagers slipping through the cracks, not living in cardboard boxes or under bridges, but under the radar. They're part of a frightening statistic. 2 million homeless youth are in America. Each of these kids are desperate for what should be most basic, a home.
I'm homeless.
And I'm homeless.
And I'm homeless.
This is 17-year-old Rebecca. She's been sleeping on other people's couches here in Falls City, Oregon, since she was 14 years old.
This was Tori's house.
How long did you stay there?
I stayed there like 3 months. This is Nikki's house. I stayed here for like 4 months. And then I lived right here too.
How many different houses, how many different couches, how many different people do you think you moved around on in that time?
At least 5 houses. I cried every time I got kicked out.
Why?
Just because I didn't really know where I was gonna go.
We got kicked out of our house, and so we moved all of our stuff in here.
It is kind of sad.
3 years ago, Rebecca's mom, Sandy, lost her house and moved into a falling down trailer with her boyfriend.
I never thought that this would happen to us. I thought we would be living in our house forever.
There were problems right from the start. The trailer was too small to fit all of them, and her mom's boyfriend, a man named Critter, only made things worse.
That's his motorcycle gang name.
His motorcycle gang name?
Yeah.
What was it like with you and him?
I don't get along with him.
She says it got so bad that even though she was still just a kid, she decided to leave.
I haven't liked she chose her boyfriend over her kids.
Okay, I like this one.
As painful as that sounds, Rebecca still loves her family and wants to help care for her disabled half-sister, Critter's daughter, Charlie. But she's become lost, dropping out of school and losing hope.
I feel lonely and drunk by myself. How am I supposed to feel? Not happy.
Like so many small American towns, Falls City has been devastated by hard economic times. But in one statistic, they may well lead the nation.
Our district experienced 32% of the student body qualifying for homelessness.
Almost a third of kids here are officially homeless, according to Aaron Hale, deputy school superintendent.
The kids you see, they're in just as desperate a situation as someone who's living in a box, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even more so because it's not as overt or obvious.
Rebecca wants to leave Falls City, but she can't find a job. So with no car and no cash, she has nowhere to go.
When I walk around, I think a lot. I think about everything, like life. And I think about getting out of this town soon, hopefully soon. I think about giving up sometimes. It's cold out here.
It's a hard life.
Yeah, it sucks.
Rebecca wants out. But 600 miles away in San Francisco, George desperately wants back in. He's making a call to the woman he calls Mom. She's actually his aunt. He never knew his real mother. And to say the least, life has been tough. A year and a half ago, when George was 17, his mom bought him a Greyhound bus ticket from Missouri.
Last August, my mom gave me a ticket to go out to San Francisco to live with some relatives.
With $50 and an address in his pocket, he set out on the trip. When he was almost there, he spoke to his mom from a rest stop in Reno. That's when he says she confessed to something almost unthinkable. The address she'd given him wasn't family, it was a McDonald's.
My mom called me and told me that I didn't have any relatives out in San Francisco and that I was basically screwed.
George is understated, but this is a horrifying thought, a parent literally putting their own child on the express bus to nowhere.
How old are you?
I was 17.
This is like the stuff of fairy tale.
Yeah.
Where the wicked stepmother is like, you know, giving a hard time to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks, George says he was forced to sleep in Golden Gate Park, right here in this tree.
When I was sleeping in trees, I felt safer, mainly because on the ground, a lot of people could simper with you. The only thing that bad could happen is if you fell out.
So every night, he would strap himself to the branches and hope for the best. He used public restrooms to take baths with paper towels, eating almost nothing to try to make his few remaining dollars last.
Did you think to yourself when you were in that park and walking around, I'm homeless?
I did think that.
A couple of times he tried calling his mom, desperately wanting a connection to the family who seems to want nothing to do with him.
I tried to call them twice. They didn't answer both times. Then I was like, what's the use? They're not going to answer anyways.
The big question is why? 2020 contacted George's mom, who says he assaulted classmates, abused his siblings, and was out of control. She says she had no choice but to get him away from her family at any cost. But George says none of that is true.
Did you get caught dealing drugs?
No.
Were you beating people up?
No.
Did you ever start fires?
No.
And we checked with authorities, the schools George attended, even with his grandparents. None could substantiate his mother's allegations.
We see a lot of young people that are just rejected from their family.
George is not alone. He's part of a growing number, says social worker Toby Eastman, who helps handle the 6,000 homeless teens who come through San Francisco every year.
What do you make of his situation?
It's actually fairly typical of many of the young people that we serve.
She says the trauma can produce a kind of emotional distance, and sometimes George does seem almost numb.
I don't miss them, not my parents at all. If I think about them, then I'll just bring back dumb memories I don't need to worry about.
George isn't the only one trying to forget painful memories. Rebecca finds herself making hard choices that she'd like to forget, sometimes staying with men she doesn't even like.
Did you get to a point where you were like, I don't have anywhere to go?
Yeah,
nobody
and then I
wants
started
me?
going out with this one guy, and I guess I did because there was somewhere to stay.
You went out with him because it was a place
I
to stay?
guess.
Like, if you had your house, do you still think you would have moved in with your boyfriend?
No. I probably wouldn't have even talked to him.
What does it do to them when they use themselves that way?
Shatters them. They have no clue. The anxiety and the stress and the lack of trust and self-worth that they have for themselves because of that it's horrible.